Hello and welcome to Alpha Geeks, the news program for the discerning computer builder. I'm your host, David Carlos, and today we're going to send the family tech support calls to Dev Null and check out what's burning up the breadboards. Are you growing tired of that loud metal box rumbling under your desk? Does vacuuming out your computer case go on your list of chores? Do you want news hosts to stop asking questions you know they are eventually going to answer themselves? Well, Cooler Master's latest mid-tower addition to its catalog, the Silencio 550, adds internal and front soundproofing panels for some added noise reduction. The case won't silence every hum, but if you already use quiet fans in your builds, this case will be the icing on your Ninja Quiet cake. Other little fine touches are a built-in front-side USB 3.0 port, a front-loading hot swap bay, dust filtration, and clamps and thumb screws to help those of us butterfingers out there. The Silencio is also fairly roomy, so if you're thinking about using longer video cards, you shouldn't have any trouble with the Silencio's modular HDD cage getting in your way. This puppy is all substance, no flash, with good ventilation and layout, an affordable $100 price tag, and subtle stylings. Not many will notice that new power rig whispering under your desk. Intel recently announced it was upgrading the already popular Xeon line of server chips with the release of Westmere EX. The new processor has a smaller 32nm process, 2.6 billion transistors, and 10 cores. Tech wonderkins at AnandTech put the chip through its paces and to ultimately see if its 0 to 60 was worth the miles per gallon. The benchmarks tested real-world client-server database applications, virtualization throughput and response time, full power and idle power consumption, and real-world equalized workload power consumption. The new Xeon hands down delivered against this matchup, but still of course falls short of the high-end IBM RISC servers that go for $100,000. Westmere EX's 30% performance advantage over its Nehalem predecessor gives Intel a bigger lead over its competitor AMD. The best quad Xeon now offers 50% more performance than the best quad Opteron. But in terms of raw electrical power, the Westmere is a guzzler. A quad Opteron setup might be better for you if your servers run idle for long periods of time. The quad Xeons need at least 600 watts to run if the machines are not slotted with low-power 1.35-volt DIMMs. So, if your farm's operating under marginal loads most of the time, the Westmere might be too gobbly for you. In order to get a good performance-to-watt ratio, you need to make sure that your shiny new quad Xeon E7 servers are working under high CPU loads. But for less intensive VMs, the dual Xeon and quad Opteron offerings will probably be a better fit and cut on power cost in the long run. Whether you're adding new racks of servers or trying to get the most out of your rig, heat is an unavoidable issue. We all try to deal with CPU heat in different ways. It could be adding a liquid cooling system, or maybe if your office AC is bad like ours, you're sweating it out in the cubicles. In order to protect your CPU, you first need an accurate temperature reading. Depending on the make, the exact monitoring methods differ, but here are some tips to make sure your processor is as hot as it says it is. First, find your CPU's operable temp ranges on the manufacturer's websites. Next, check the reported temperature in the BIOS. Different motherboard manufacturers have better reporting accuracy than others, but it's a good idea to see what the temp is at idle. If your processor is safely within limits, install and calibrate a software CPU monitor like RealTemp, CoreTemp, or Open Hardware Monitor. Keep in mind, sensors on board were meant as fail-safes and not accurate measures, so they need a little help. Calibrate the software. Sometimes each core on some multi-core chips report different temps depending on load and cooling effects. Also, reporting is typically less accurate at lower temperatures, and so calibration may help keep better tabs on your CPU and keep it from going China syndrome. Until zombie Tesla rises from the grave and bestows upon us all the magic of wireless power, we're all going to have to deal with, cables. Here are some ways to exterminate that rat's nest behind your desk. Get some zip ties. They're cheap, and bundling those dangling wires is a first and easy cleanup step. Group like wires together. Separate your power, data, and audio cables. Magnetic interference from power cables can disturb data and especially audio signal quality. Label the heck out of everything. Craning under your desk and fumbling around with a flashlight is no fun. Hang those little plastic tags left over from bread near the plug. Also, color code the wire with a paint pen and mark the tag with the same color. A final tip, use a primary and secondary power strip. That way you can shut off essential, non-essential power bricks and save a few watts. It's time for your News of the Geek, the news items that, whether it deserves it or not, has a home in our nerdy little hearts. This week, it's a bit of bad news. Google is breaking up with us. You know, when I'm lost and I need directions, I don't pull over and ask someone for directions. I go where most people typically go, Google Maps. I pull out my phone and bingo, I can stop crying. Google Maps and other Google web apps and services like Alerts, Scholar, Fusion Tables, Transit, Trends, Google Docs, and Spreadsheets were all started in Google Labs. The search engine giant announced they are scrapping Labs, and some of the ungraduated projects will go away entirely. CEO Larry Page said, on his Google Plus page of course, that it was part of an effort to refocus and put, quote, more wood behind fewer arrows. Not that we can really complain about them shutting down free services, but why? And that's it for this week's episode of Alpha Geeks. Thanks for pointing your browser at us. Check back next week for more benchmarks, a motherboard review, and the latest in tech news.